And I know that each of you possess many unique gifts. Some of the gifts you are aware of, and others are yet to be revealed. But in addition to our particular gifts, God has entrusted us with really universal gifts as women. And St. John Paul II, others refer to this as the feminine genius. And in Latin, genius it's a disposition. It's something distinctive, which comes from our being and the central part of our character. So the feminine genius ultimately speaks to a woman's capacity to make room for another. That written into our very makeup by design, we as women have the ability to literally carry life, to have room for another. And the physical capacity that we have to receive and carry life really sheds light on a much deeper reality within each of our hearts. Our bodies and our souls are intimately connected, and together that they tell us something. That as women we have this unique capacity for love, a love that is receptive, generous, sensitive, and maternal. And St. John Paul II would say that in order to actually have a society marked by love, it is absolutely necessary for women to tap into this unique capacity and foster its growth. So to start with, generosity. A generous spirit really requires that we be attentive to the motives of our hearts. And it often requires that we make a deliberate choice despite maybe our own inclinations. And this happens in the little small moments of every day. And the very idea of this is totally countercultural, right? We live in a society that's so focused on self. Do what you want, when you want to, how you want to, and take a selfie of it. But this attitude, it's actually an offense to our nature, who we are, what we are created for. Because being consumed with ourselves, absorbed with ourselves, leaves us restless, lonely, and unsatisfied. Our love as women then becomes manipulative, possessive, wrapped around ourselves rather than others. And this isn't freedom. True freedom and fulfillment can only come through a generous spirit that places the needs of others first and seeks to make a gift, really, of oneself and love. So currently, I'm serving as the Respect Life Office Director for the Archdiocese of New York. And when I started this position a few years ago, within the first few months, I had to go to this sort of benefactor board gathering at a place called Gotham Hall in Midtown Manhattan, this very fancy place. And still, 11 years in the convent, I find myself asking, are we dressed appropriately? Turns out we always are dressed appropriately, but so we go in and everybody's in evening gowns and we get seated at this table, and most of the people weren't familiar with the Sisters of Life. So I strike up a conversation with this woman, I'll say Lisa, and I'm telling her a little bit about who we are, and she right away says, do you teach any classes on how to teach children to behave? And I was like, well, that's kind of an odd first question. And then she launches into this story. And she said that morning on her way to work on the subway into Manhattan, the subway was a little noisier than usual because a woman had stepped on with a screaming toddler. And this poor mother was just so overwhelmed, so overcome, and so was the child. And even though Lisa was really timid and sort of self-conscious, she offered to help. And the mother was willing to do anything. Yes, please, So Lisa picks up the toddler, puts the little girl on her lap, and she starts singing in the middle of the subway nursery rhymes. She noted that it wasn't until the third song, Old MacDonald, that the toddler calmed down. And she held the little girl for the rest of the ride, and they parted ways. The mother was so grateful and really beautiful. So about a week later, after this event, I run into Lisa at another event. And I said, Lisa, have you rescued any other mothers on the subway? And she said, no, not yet, but I did go out and buy 2 children's books that I'm keeping in my bag from now on. And I was so blown away. I'm like, this is the feminine genius. Like, not only did she overcome her own sort of self-consciousness on this train for the sake of this other mother and the little girl, but when she put another before herself, her capacity for loving generosity grew. And that this is true for each of us. Each time we choose the other in generosity, our capacity to receive love and give love deepens.